Everyone, Namaskar. Welcome to the 4th ASEAN India Youth Summit. We are closing in to the third session of the third day of our Youth Summit. I hope everyone is having a great time, getting to meet people, interact, and making new friends. To welcome you all for this session, we have a very interesting panel today and a very esteemed panel of speakers. For this session on good governance and regional development, may I welcome Shri NIRANJAN Reddy ji on the dais. He is the Member of Parliament from Rajya Sabha. Joining us today for the session is Shri BVR Subramanyam. He is the Chancellor of Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. Shri VVR Subramanyam has been the former Commerce Secretary in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. It gives me immense privilege to welcome our next speaker for the panel, Ambassador Venkatesh Varma. Ambassador Venkatesh Varma has served in the Indian Foreign Service, and he has served as India's ambassador to Russia and the Kingdom of Spain. May I request Shri NIRANJAN Reddy ji to kindly take over the session, please.
A very good morning to a lot of young people who managed to come despite the late evening, I'm told. It's very nice to see all the young faces here. It's my privilege to chair this session because we have two very eminent speakers who have been introduced. They bring a wealth of experience with them. The discussion we have today is on good governance and regional development. Just to introduce the topic and then leave the wisdom to the speakers who will follow after me. We would be focusing on areas of what we consider would be good governance and how governance is moving from being in control and command to enabling and steering governance towards development. And we have a topic which intersects at the aspect of good governance and regional development. The expression regional development is a little unwieldy because a region is not specifically defined. It could be a smaller region within a country. It could be the country itself treated as a region. But having regard to the theme of this particular meet, which is about strengthening Asian-Indian partnership, we decided to focus on the region being a larger region, which could be even larger than a country. I think what we would therefore be doing is explain to you through our speakers, and I would leave it to the speakers to deal with these aspects in the way they think fit. And we would be throwing the topic for discussion to all the members after we have the introductory remarks and speeches from the two speakers. May I request, in no particular order, but Mr. Venkatesh Varma to kindly.
Namaskar, good morning to everyone. Nice to see young, happy faces first thing in the morning. Gives us a lot of energy and a lot of hope. Shri Ramadhav Garu, Shri NIRANJAN Reddy Garu, my colleague and esteemed friend, Mr. Subramanyam. It is indeed a great pleasure to be part of this MEA India Foundation Youth Summit of the fourth such youth summit between India and ASEAN here in this fantastic city of Hyderabad. And I hope all of you have had an opportunity to get the sense of the pulse of the vibrant India that is unfolding in front of our eyes including in this very pulsating city of Hyderabad. And I'm sure you will have more opportunities as you spend some time here. Youth and a youth summit. In my view, this is just not part of diplomacy at a formal level. And between India and ASEAN, such diplomacy takes place very well. Prime Minister Modi has hosted ASEAN summits. He has visited ASEAN countries, and that is important in its own place and in its own right. But what is equally important, I think, is building on people-to-people contacts and investing in the future. And this is indeed an investment into the future that India, with a median age of 28.4 years, and ASEAN, median age of just 30.2 years. We are one of the youngest, most vibrant youth generations anywhere in the world. So it is our strength, but it is also our responsibility that we build our countries, our regions in cooperation, and also the world, which will reflect your dreams, your aspirations, and your strengths and your contributions. So I can't overemphasize the importance of events such as this, and I congratulate both the Ministry of External Affairs and India Foundation for having done such a fantastic job. The Honorable Minister of Tourism, in his inaugural address day for yesterday, mentioned three words. He said it was important to keep in mind the great relationship between India and ASEAN on commerce, culture, and connectivity. But I think the biggest contribution that anybody can make in these three fields are the youth. And you, as the youth ambassadors, have this great opportunity and a responsibility of taking it forward. But let me spend a little time on this great journey that India and ASEAN have begun together. And let me start by saying that we in India have both admiration and a certain sense of envy of how ASEAN has developed and gone forward over the last 30, 40 years. ASEAN regional integration is a role model for integration anywhere in the world. Why? Because you have meshed in your differences into commonalities. You have generated what is called the ASEAN spirit of consensus, which is a unique contribution to international diplomacy. And you have taken it forward in a step-by-step at a pace that is comfortable to all towards fulfilling the vision of your leaders and of your peoples. I think this has been an extremely good journey. I say envy because India has tried the same thing in South Asia. And unfortunately, our success in achieving that goal has not been as successful as ASEAN. I would say because ASEAN is fortunate because you don't have one of the countries that is present in South Asia, which has disruptive as negative place on regional integration, and there is no prizes for guessing which country that is. So India has moved on. If SAARC cooperation has not fructified and has not built up to its vision, India has taken forward its cooperation with all its neighbors, with Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, our neighbors in the Indian Ocean area, through BIMSTEC and several other forms of cooperation. So India has tried SAARC, but India has moved beyond SAARC. And whenever Pakistan is able to change its intentions and its modes of functioning, it is welcome to come back to the fold. But I think the clear message from India, from Prime Minister Modi, who on his inaugural day, said his priority in foreign policy was the neighborhood first policy, and he has implemented that systematically over a period of time. We will not wait for one country, one disruptive country, to come and spoil the show. We will carry it forward, and we have achieved great, including after the COVID and as a result of the Russia-Ukraine war disruptions. We saw how India lent tremendous hands of friendship to Sri Lanka, a very close friend and neighbor, in overcoming some of the difficulties it's had, and we are doing it with Nepal, with Bangladesh, and I'm just giving you a brief sense of. So last year, in November, in Cambodia was very kind to host a fantastic summit, India-ASEAN Summit, the 19th India-ASEAN Summit, where a comprehensive strategic partnership was enshrined. And this partnership is meaningful, mutually beneficial, and forward-looking. And it is intended to build on the age-old civilizational, maritime connectivity and cultural linkages that go back millennia. If there were these linkages between our peoples, which go back millennia, why is it that just in the last few years we are coming back to these linkages? Because unfortunately, through the intervention of history and the intervention of external powers, we were separated from our own geographical region. We belong to one geographical region, but invisible and visible barriers came between us. And I'm so glad that this youth summit is reestablishing these linkages that go back not just a couple of years, but go back several millennia. India's relations with ASEAN have progressed over the last 30 years. Firstly, we were a dialogue partner, a sectoral partner, then a dialogue partner, and now we are a full-fledged strategic partner. This is based on mutual respect. And let me tell you what India respects in ASEAN. We respect your Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia, your nuclear weapon-free zone, the ASEAN Community of 2025, the ASEAN Integration Work Plans, the East Asia Summit, which is your product, which we contribute regularly for its success, the ASEAN-India Summit documents, adopted both at the 20th and the 25th anniversaries. But we also participate in many of the activities that are central to ASEAN's functioning. The ARF, the ASEAN Regional Forum, the Post-Ministerial Conference with India, the ADMM Plus, which is the Defense Ministers Conclave, in which our Defense Minister, Shri Rajnath Singh, participated last time, but we've done so regularly at all meetings. The expanded ASEAN Maritime Forum and initiatives, and promoting ASEAN community building objectives. Your hopes and your vision coincide with our hopes and our vision. We are with you as you build ASEAN from unity to a community. Please see India as a partner, because we have a vested interest not only in the fulfillment of your vision, but your success of your endeavors. Your success is our success. We also believe that the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific and India's Indo-Pacific Oceans initiatives are important initiatives in their own rights. Prime Minister Modi made a path-breaking speech in the Shangri-La conference in 2018, where he spelled out India's vision of the Indo-Pacific. And the Indo-Pacific is interpreted in various ways. But the fundamental way of defining Indo-Pacific is as a people's concept, where we come back into the same mind space that we have existed for millennia. The Indo-Pacific is not a new construction. The Indo-Pacific is reconstructing an old home, an old civilizational, cultural, economic, strategic, maritime home. So we are, in a sense, we are putting back what existed in the past. in our history as our legacy. We also attach great importance to ASEAN centrality. Your view, your centrality is our priority. ASEAN centrality should be closely linked to ASEAN unity, which it is. ASEAN centrality should be articulated through consensus within ASEAN, which we fully respect. And ASEAN centrality principle should also be seen through the prism of practical cooperation, which we intend to follow. ASEAN centrality should not be seen as a barrier for other initiatives in the sub-region, such as the IOAR, the BIMSTEC, Quad, and other initiatives. Let me end on a note on the broad theme of this whole conference as a whole, which is good governance. Let me give you some practical examples. When I was ambassador of India in Russia, the first 2 years of the COVID pandemic coincided with my stay there. Of course, the COVID pandemic took most countries by surprise. We were not forewarned, so we were not prepared. But I think each country learned its own way the lessons that the COVID pandemic came about. So the first lesson of COVID pandemic was that it concerns everyone, and therefore it is an all government effort, an all society effort. India undertook one of the most massive vaccination programs in the world. 2 of those vaccines were domestically produced, but we also kept our doors open for cooperation with foreign countries. So there was no limitation of vaccines. The vaccines were produced and distributed in in numbers which are comparable to the highest in the world, probably in some respects, the highest in the world. Secondly, for people in distress all across the world, India conducted what was called the Vande Bharat program, which is that the government put together all the airlines, all the shipping companies, all the transport companies to ensure that people in distress, people affected by the COVID pandemic could either come back to India or having come back to India could go back to their places where they stayed. On the whole, India transported 3.2 crore people in the Vande Bharat program. 3.2 crore, which is the largest airlift in history. We also did air bubble agreements with a number of countries, and that was one. When the Russia-Ukraine war broke out, we had almost 18 to 20,000 Indian students and Indian nationals in Ukraine. Prime Minister Modi spoke to both President Putin and President Zelensky. And I can tell you, given my own knowledge of the issue, he succeeded in asking both sides to stop the war for a few hours so that Indian students could be bussed out of the active war zones. There's no other world leader who has been able to do that. And I can give you more examples of evacuation from Afghanistan and things like that. So let me summarize it and conclude by the following. What is good governance? Good governance, I would say, consists of 5 principles. One is leadership. You have to have a government that takes control, takes ownership. And we were fortunate in India for having Prime Minister Modi's vision and leadership to make it an all government, all states, all society, all organizations endeavor. Second is organization. I think you have to get people together from all walks of life, both government, non-government, private sector, public sector, doctors, nurses, technologists, scientists, army people, you name it, everybody is part of this. Coordination, obviously, you need to put together all this together and coordinate it in an effective manner. Fourth principle is technology. from the COVID apps that were created, the Air Suvidha apps that made air travel possible, the technology to produce and distribute vaccines, the technology to produce additional amount of oxygen cylinders. As you remember, in the summer of 2020, there was a huge shortage of oxygen, and also to share this with the outside world. India shared it with almost 80 countries. Medical assistance was given to more than 120 countries. Lastly, communication. A public health event involves not just assistance, but reassurance to the people. And I think India succeeded very well. And if you compare India's approach to the COVID pandemic, the good governance principles of leadership, organization, coordination, technology, and communication come through. India was very fortunate to have the friendship and the support of the friends from ASEAN. To what extent we could help, India provided help. To what extent we could cooperate, we did so, not just during that time, including we have given some vaccines, including as part of the COVID program, as part of as a CORD cooperation initiative. So this shows that quite apart from the cooperation between our governments and our countries, I think it is the friendship at the people's level that is of enduring importance. So I wish you all the best. Great to have this opportunity to interact with you, and I pass on the floor to the coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Varma. We note the tremendous experience that you brought to the fore as a former diplomat for 33 years. I correctly note, sir, that you have laid stress on youth being the fulcrum of both the Asian and the Indian economies. Incidentally, sir, I was just checking today, both India and the Asian bloc would have amongst the youngest population for the next 30 to 50 years. So you also laid stress on ASEAN being a guiding light for a regional cooperation. And I just feel happy when I'm chairing the session to state that some of these principles that the ASEAN bloc of countries have shown, that countries can come together, form one regional bloc for the purpose of progressing, has been emulated in a country like India, where we have so many diverse states speaking different languages. The central government has now brought out initiatives which is trying to bring the different states of India together. It's almost more than the number of ASEAN countries. We have as many states in India. So when we have the GST regime, that was the goods and services tax regime that was introduced in India, previously every state would have a different tax. If goods were moving from one state to another state, there would be entry barriers, there would be entry taxes, so it was not free. This government has rolled out the GST, which has made movement of goods seamless. The government has been focusing on telecom portability. Earlier, we would have a telephone number that would function only within one state, and we would need a roaming feature if we had to go into the next state. So now we have one telecom number throughout the country. We are also now making it more inclusive with the government introducing one nation, one ration card. Now this ration card concept in India is where we provide certain additional facilities for people who are below the poverty line or people who are in need, not just below the poverty line. The state governments, like the Asian bloc of countries being different, the different state governments were giving different ration cards earlier. The central government is now moving towards making it one ration card throughout the country. So the concept that we have seen in ASEAN, where you all converge together for the purpose of having seamless development, is something that we are witnessing, manifesting in India also. Sir, now may I request Mr. BVR Subramanyam. He's an eminent former Commerce Secretary. He has been the Chief Secretary of State. He has worked in the Prime Minister's office in 2 different stints. So I would request Mr. Subramanyam, sir, to speak.
Morning, friends. Ram Madhav garu, Reddy garu, my dear friend, old colleague, Venkatesh Varma. Extremely happy to be with all of you today. Although it's nice to meet younger people, people who are far younger than you. You know, we are all people with a past. You're all people with a future. I think it's always lends hope, a lot of positivity. And one sees younger people, you know that the world is in safe hands. And one sees a diverse group of people from so many countries, 10 countries in the ASEAN, India, all together in one room, talking to each other, sharing experiences, trying to think about common vision, a common future. Then you realize that the world is in safe hands. Let me begin on a slightly lighter note. You know, some of you in India may have seen this. A lot of people who have come from outside among you may not have seen. There's a movie which was released recently, a couple of months ago. Well, the abbreviated form was PS1. And I'm sure a lot of people in India would have seen it. It's going to be followed by another movie called PS2. Okay, the name is Ponniyin Selvan 1. It'll be followed by Ponniyin Selvam 2. It's actually about a kingdom in southern part of India, south of this place, about 500 kilometers further south. A lot of people think of India as a highly inward-looking civilization. You know, that's the general belief in the rest of the world. You know, we got the Himalayas, you've got the oceans on all sides. So India is a very inward-looking. It's good to see this recent film because it actually shows that India is a very outward-looking civilization. Historically, we have the mountains have not been barriers. The oceans have not been barriers. The oceans have actually been avenues through which India actually connected with the rest of the world. And it's a highly entertaining film. Huh? Very nice actors and actresses and a good story, excellent photography. If some of you are free tonight or tomorrow night, I recommend, you know, you can Google or go to Amazon Prime and some of you can show it to your friends. It's excellent. But it also shows that was a big kingdom in southern part of India, somewhere closer to Chennai, Madras, and how closely it was connected with Southeast Asia. You know, there were very strong linkages, very strong maritime linkages between this part of the country and, you know, what is Indonesia today, Malaysia, Singapore. A very strong cultural connect was there. And it was not just cultural. The underlying thing was economic. It was trade. It was businessmen going and doing trade. And we are talking of more than 1,000 years ago. And it's not just that. You go to Bengal, you know, the ports in Bengal, the ports in Orissa, on the east coast of India had extreme, actually probably they were far more linked to Southeast Asia than to India, the rest of the country itself. So I think this is the historical route. I myself have had some minor experience of Southeast Asia. I'm not a diplomat, so I've not worked in any of these countries. I used to work in a training academy in India. It's in the hills in the north, Mussoorie. It's called the Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy. And it used to run a course once upon a time, which was about learning about development. So about 30 very senior bureaucrats, joint secretaries as we call in Government of India, would be taken. The course would be for 4 weeks in India, 4 weeks in UK, because that's another developed country from India, and 4 weeks in 2 countries in Southeast Asia, Malaysia and Singapore. And, you know, my wife is also a civil servant, so she ran that course. So 3 weeks in Malaysia, there's an organization there called INTAN, which is actually the Civil Service College in Malaysia, and the Civil Service College in Singapore. And you actually realize that these are countries which can learn a lot from each other. We have very common historical links, cultural links, plus a lot of our socio-political setups have a lot of commonalities, be it our constitutional structure. I mean, a lot of us drive on the left, or the, you know, the right side of the road, you know, quote unquote, the left side. So a lot of such common links are there. And I actually was not on the course. I decided to actually hike. I still remember I landed in Kuala Lumpur, took a bus, and I traveled all over Malaysia, up north, Pahang, Terengganu, all the way up to the Thai border, jumped over to the other side, then took another bus, came all the way down, you know, you again cross Penang, you cross Johor Bahru, and then into Singapore. You actually see the country from below, not as a bureaucrat, but as a, and then you realize the diversity is so large, just like in India. At the same time, the commonalities are huge. You know, I mean, one of the regions in the world where actually the standard form of greeting, which all 3 of us did when we got onto the dais, is understood also in large parts of Southeast Asia. When I fold my hand and say this, everybody understands it's a greeting. So I think, you know, that you begin with a lot of commonalities and there's a lot to learn from each other. These 2 regions are, you know, India is a subcontinent, you know, a country of 1 billion plus people, 1.3 billion, and either yesterday or tomorrow we are about to become the largest country by population. And the ASEAN are two major regions with immense diversity, immense potential. Look at our sizes. I mean, India is about a 1.3 billion. ASEAN is about 700 million, 0.7 billion. Our economies today are roughly similar in size. We are $3 trillion plus. The ASEAN as a grouping is about $3 trillion plus. And both of us have extremely, extremely bright futures. I mean, there is, our Prime Minister Modi ji keeps talking about 2047, Amrit Kal, which is 100 years of India's independence. But Price Waterhouse keeps coming with a report every 5 years or so. And about 3 years ago, they came out with a report about the world in 2050. It's more focused on businesses. But where will our economies be in 2050 if you look at it? India, on a PPP basis, will be a $40 trillion economy. Even if you take it on market rates, it will be a $30 trillion economy. $30 trillion for most of us, even in India, is an unimaginable number because you don't know how many zeros are there. What does it mean in reality? It is actually larger than the United States today. Okay. And ASEAN as a region, in PPP terms, is going to be about $25 trillion, which is not small. Okay, ASEAN is 25 trillion, India is going to be about 40 trillion. Even if you take market rates, India will be 30 trillion, ASEAN will be about 20 trillion. I mean, this is two major, foci for the world. The major poles for economy, for geopolitics, and I think all countries in this region, including India, we play a very weak hand. We underplay our role. We are actually potentially world leaders, ASEAN as a grouping, India as a grouping. History is in our favor. And I think we build in our links, we build on our historical, cultural, and future economic links. I think this particular combination is going to be a very powerful combination, a big stabilizing factor in the world. Look at India and ASEAN economically. About roughly 10% of India's trade is with ASEAN. And if you look at the goods and trade between the two sides, it's about $80 billion. And I've been seeing it. I was associated with the first India-ASEAN trade agreement, which was between India and Singapore. And I was in the negotiating team as a very young junior officer, more than, almost 20 years ago, 2002-03, when it was being negotiated. And India and Singapore have a very, very level free trade agreement. It's called SECA. And then India and Thailand had one. And then we have one with entire ASEAN. And then we have one or two with small other countries also individually. Now, that has seen such a huge, over 20 years, for something like $3 or $4 billion of trade, it's gone to $80 billion only in goods. Agreed. There are always some criticisms here and there, that ASEAN sells more to India, India sells less. But I think these are all evolving things. I mean, and both these sites have a lot of complementarities. India needs coal for its power plants. Indonesia is the biggest supplier of coal. You need edible oil, you got Malaysia, you got Indonesia, all of them supplying edible oil. I mean, you need television sets, automobiles, a lot of them come from Thailand. So I think the economies have a lot to, buy and sell each other. So I think there is an immense potential. So think of it, if these are two economic blocks, India is a $30 or a $40 trillion economy. ASEAN is a $20 to $25 trillion economy. Where will we be? If we should be actually trading something like $2 to $3 trillion with each other. So I think that is the future. That is the potential that these sides have. But how do we realize that potential? And that's why I've interpreted the world regional development as, regional development looking at India and ASEAN as a large mega region. If you see that, I think we need to anchor this relationship with a lot of positives which can then be used to build upon. So what do you need to anchor it on? I think you have had sessions yesterday and day before on connectivity. Some of our friends, colleagues must have spoken to you. I think connectivity is key. We need road connectivity, rail connectivity, air connectivity, port connectivity, and in the modern world, digital connectivity. It's very strange. But at some time in the past, 100 years ago, the British actually ruled India. They had Burma, they had Malaysia, and they had Singapore. You could actually drive from Singapore to India, if there was a car then, without a passport, because it was one country. It was part of the British Empire. And I was actually reading something about 15, 20 days ago out of curiosity, nothing to do with the summit. The British had a railway system in India which went all the way to our northeastern part, Dibrugarh, Assam, that area. And in Burma, they had something called the Mandalay Rail, which came all the way from. And there were actually plans on, the British did a survey around 1910. How do we link the two sides? They actually surveyed 3 areas at 3 possible routes. One all along the coast, the Arakan coast, and to link up. The other was through somewhere in the middle, Manipur. And the other was much more to the corner of India, where India meets Burma and China, and then, connected. All 3 were surveyed. In those days, it costed, 30 million rupees. It was too costly, and so some bureaucrat like me said, don't go ahead and do it. But think of it, if it had been done, we would have had rail connectivity all the way from any part of India to the western end to the eastern end of ASEAN. It's all possible. By the way, that same survey, when you had the Second World War and China was cut off from the rest of the world because the Japanese had occupied the coast, they had to be supplied. That railway route was actually built as a road. It's called the Stilwell Road. And the Stilwell Road was used to supply Chiang Kai-shek by the Americans and the British from India. And that road was regularly used for supplying the Chinese government. So those things exist. So I think the governments on both sides, the ASEAN countries and India, is trying to build up these links. So road and rail connectivity is absolutely important. 2, what would this connectivity do? And the port connectivity. It will link up some of the most dynamic regions of India with ASEAN. There's a huge population and a huge growth potential on the east coast and the southern side of India. And the ASEAN is on the other side. The Bay of Bengal is just a lake which joins us both. So if you have better connectivity, we can actually anchor our future economic relationship on that. The second is you to anchor that in a lot of treaties and agreements. I think the India-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement is one such. There are many such agreements between both sides. We need more of those. We need to be more liberal so that, you actually give businessmen and companies a basis to actually engage with each other and, see that both sides prosper. We need to anchor it with solid tourism. I mean, people don't realize, Indians tour a lot. And in Maldives, in Mauritius, and Sri Lanka, the largest tourist group is actually Indians. I'm sure, of course, you have to just go around, and even if I open my phone, I get full of ads, come visit Singapore, come visit Bali, come visit Malaysia. So obviously all these things are there. But I'm sure tourism helps people to people connect. It not only improves the economy, but it also helps linkages. And tourism actually leads to other businesses because you get to know the countries, and then that leads to new friendships, and that leads to, new business opportunities. Also, we need to connect both sides on education. I think a lot of us speak very common languages. We have got English as an underlying base, but I'm sure with a bit of effort, we can learn each other's languages also. In a lot of countries, the scripts are very similar. So it's not at all difficult. So I think it's important that we have. I do know that a lot of good Indian educational institutions do operate in Southeast Asia. I'm sure the reverse is also possible. If greater education collaboration will also lead to greater friendships. What is the soft power which the West has? I mean, apart from Coca-Cola, which everybody drinks, the other soft power they have is education, actually. So, the British Empire has gone, but, people still go to Oxford and Cambridge to study. I mean, I think the day has come when, people from India should be going to Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia to study. And, the youth from there should come to India to study. India has world-class medical colleges, engineering colleges. And by the way, I was working in one state in India, Jammu and Kashmir. And I didn't realize that half the foreign tourists who come to J&K came from 2 countries, which is Malaysia and Indonesia. I didn't even know that. Okay, fine. People, you want to go to snow, you don't have to go to Switzerland. You can come to India and see snow. So, these are the potentials. So, tourism, education, solid links in terms of treaties, etc. This will then lay the groundwork for top-class trade in goods, trade in services, and financial flows. I mean, one of the largest sources of foreign direct investment in India is Singapore. I mean, Singapore is a city-state. Some of you are from there. Singapore's prosperity depends on the prosperity of the neighborhood and prosperity of India also. So I think as we connect, we engage more, I think the entire region can get pulled up. There are a lot of commonalities, and there's a lot to learn from each other. You've had a history. A lot of countries, barring 1 or 2, have been under foreign occupation as colonies. India has also had these kind of issues. We've all grown out of it, but we have all had diverse experiences. So I think there's a lot to learn from each other, and I think we should build on learning from each other. India has a lot to learn, as Ambassador Varma has said. I mean, with a bit of envy, that, when the Malaysian constitution was being written, lawyers had to be sent from India to, help write the constitution. But they've gone far ahead of India in many things. If you see the civil service college in Singapore, it's first rate. I mean, the kind of training they provide to the young people who get recruited to the Singapore civil service. There's a lot for our civil service to learn. How do you set up strong, efficient, world-class civil services in some parts of the world? So I think we can learn a lot from each other. We can learn on the economic side from each other in terms of how has Southeast Asia prospered. You've had some extremely successful strategies. What is it? Number one, openness. Openness to trade. I think trade has been the anchor of the growth of Southeast Asia. I mean, in a way, people talk of China being an export powerhouse. I will say Southeast Asia is actually an export powerhouse in a way. So I think openness and trade has helped Southeast Asia. India can learn from that. You've also succeeded because of harmonious society. When I say harmonious, people at peace. There is a law and order, there is stability, which helps investors and businesses. I think that's a very, very strong point of your strategy. Investment on education and skills. You want a good workforce. Today, if somebody is actually moving a plant out of China, which are the countries they visit? They'll go to Vietnam, they'll go to Indonesia, they'll go to India, and they'll go to Thailand. I mean, you can almost see these are the countries which people look at. And mind you, everybody doesn't like to put all their eggs in one basket. The world has a strategy of China plus one. So they're looking at other countries, etc. And I think we, as a group, can look at how do we capitalize on this so that we can have joint production systems, etc. And lastly, you've grown because of the simple work ethic, hard work. Work, be disciplined, and the countries prosper. And I think that's a common feature which we share between our nations, If you look at most Indian, I come from this city, and what do people like? They're not interested in big thing. Earn good money, have a good, boyfriend or a girlfriend, go and see a movie, get married, buy a car, travel around the world. That's fantastic, because that's how countries grow, because each individual works hard for himself, and then the countries prosper. So I think we can learn from that. There are a few challenges. I'll just outline 2 or 3 of them. Well, all these prospects are there, $30 trillion, $20 billion region, economy, and all that. We are going to have a lot of issues we need to. The world may slide into protectionism. We have all grown on free trade. We need to keep supporting openness, because there's always somebody who's going to lose out, If tomorrow in India, you must have seen in Hyderabad a lot of 3-wheelers, auto rickshaw. I think in Indonesia it's called tuk-tuk or whatever. It's there. But that replaced a cycle rickshaw. So obviously those guys got unemployed. That's the problem with trade. Some people, but they're always in totality a winner. So I think we need to see that, everybody, protectionism doesn't take over the world. We also need to see that the growth which we have in all our countries is more equitably distributed, We can't have excessive concentration of wealth. It's not a good thing for society. I think all of us as nations need to worry. We are, of course, going to have this challenge of greenness, environment-friendly, sustainability. And I think all of us have to address that. And lastly, global geopolitical uncertainty. We are having all kinds of disturbances which you can see in Europe. And I think India has been trying to emphasize, look, it's your problem. The whole world is not affected by that problem. Our foreign minister has been very vocal about it. We have other challenges. That's not the only challenge we have. I think we need to build on that. Having said that, all that I can say is, the future is with us. These are 2 regions which will be big geopolitical poles in the future. There is no doubt about that. And you are the future. You are the young. The next 30 years, you will see this world transform. 20 years later, when the same kind of a conference will be held or a summit, it will be a totally different conversation that you'll be having there. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Subramanyam. You correctly tell us that in greater cooperation lies greater development, and therein lies better governance. Sir, you also tell us that we have historical links and we have a lot of commonalities, and we should therefore increase the connectivity and cooperation for the future. Sir, with your permission, we have spent considerable time speaking. I think I'll now throw the floor open for discussion. Please, any of you can ask our eminent speakers any of the questions. If I can start from the second row. If somebody is holding, yes. Second row, please.
Good morning to the distinguished guests and honorable speakers. I'm Anik, I'm from Brunei. So Every day we are reminded of the changes needed for economic and social progress, but not that institutions are the channels through which such changes can happen. We would do well to consider what is meant by participation, or how participation grows out of democratic processes, how these processes depend on the structure of institutions, and how institutions originate from human resources. Only then we will understand better the processes of progress and picture more accurately the necessarily diverse levels of organizational setups on which progress depends. So my question is, how can we justify governance and good governance in corruption-prone economic conditions across the world? And I would like to request for a follow-up question, which is, can economic, financial, and social inclusion and good
Can we take one question at a time?
Okay.
Can you please repeat the first question?
Okay, how can we justify governance and good governance in corruption-prone economic conditions across the world? Thank you.
Yes. Okay. The first row, please. The lady in the first row. Yeah. I'm sorry, we are not able to see the names, so I have to use these generic expressions. Don't mind.
Good morning. My name Nuke. I'm from Indonesia, North Sumatra. Thank you for sharp and clear presentation. I feel the spirit of this youth summit is about restructures of Indo-Pacific relation. My question for Mr. Venkatesh Varma is how to activate and implemented the youth group of function among young people as a function of advocacy, mediation, and local leadership in regional development to achieve or sustain good governance. And my question for Mr. Subramanyam, we agree that India and ASEAN culture have a similarity, especially in semiotically, a lot of in common. With this existence of tourism and easiest information that we access, we believe that youth generation will aware and rise our similarity. The question, I'm asking your advice. How we come together to maintain culture so that remains impartial and remain coexist in the capitalist global value. Thank you.
Take one more and
One more. Yeah, I think somebody behind there wearing that. Yes. The one waving the flag. Yes. You.
Hello, sir. Salam sejahtera. My name is Hisham. I'm from Malaysia. So I have a question about the security.
Can you be a little louder, please?
Okay. Security is the key of stability and prosperity. As a country that promotes peace and stability, how does India stand on the development of nuclear weapons? And did India interest to become the counterbalance for China in Southeast Asia in the economic context? Thank you.
now you can take.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I think you have covered a lot of ground. So we'll take questions as it pertains to what we can answer, the two of us. Firstly, I think there's this question on participation, democracy, whole thing. Okay, the way I understood it, you have concerns about democracy, representativeness, and how democracy can help control corruption. I think that's the broad trend of the question you asked. Okay, when India became independent in 1947, and it's 75 years now, people were not very hopeful that India would succeed as a country. Winston Churchill in a speech in parliament, actually was very emphatic, said, do not hand over the future of hungry millions into the hands of corrupt, this, that, whatever. And there were immense number of writings and books which were written on how India will become a failed state. The beauty of the nation has been democracy, representative government. And I think India is actually a living example in the world that a large country of its size, which is subcontinental, can actually succeed as a democracy with multiple transitions of government in a very peaceful manner, and a growth process may not be as spectacular as some countries, but very stable and steady, maintaining social harmony and growing at the same time, allowing people to enjoy their rights, liberties, and grow and prosper. And so I think this is a good example, and I'm sure it can be true of many other countries also. We can start quoting. So I think the way forward is for a representative, democratic kind of a setup to expand its footprint over the world. I was watching a BBC program a couple of days ago. I mean, entire South America, 30 years ago, had no democracy almost there in any country. Entire Latin America today is a democracy, barring one or two exceptions. So I think there's a global trend, and I think one is very confident that the democracies have taken strong roots in all our countries. Democratic cultures are there. So I think in the long run, irrespective of what is our framework at the top, what's required is actually participation at the bottom level. India has been very successful because we have got governance going down to the village level. The second was, how do we maintain links between our countries to see that, the cultures, the similarities we can build upon. Governments can only do so much. It can provide an enabling environment. What we need is more people moving and traveling to each other. And I think, I'll tell you, one part of the world which people don't realize is actually Africa. Indian presence in Africa at a people-to-people level is immense. Almost every country in Africa has a large Indian presence, either as traders or as businessmen or as farmers. I think India and Southeast Asia are also going to maintain these links through youth, through tourism, through education, even health. I mean, healthcare, people can be traveling to each other's countries for better healthcare. That is how these things are. Simultaneously, I think there is a need to set up organizations which carry these forward. I mean, if the India ASEAN Youth Summit finally evolves into a small mini secretariat, or there are institution to institution links which are set up between universities, between organizations, between chambers of commerce, that will then enable these links to, stand the test of time. On the other two, which is nuclear and all, I'll leave it to my colleague.
Thank you. There have been some interesting points of interest to the participants, and let me make some general observations on that. You see, Indo-Pacific and what can the youth of India and ASEAN to do to connect and to get a sense of ownership. You see, as I mentioned in my presentation, Indo-Pacific we are not creating something new. We are only reclaiming and reoccupying what was originally our own. Not just as a political strategic concept, but as a concept that is more cultural, civilizational, and because that our area has been under a lot of foreign influence for a very long time. It is not that we want to close our doors. We are not. We want an open and free Indo-Pacific. Everybody is welcome. But we will stand on our own feet. We will think with our own mind. We will have our own beliefs and our own values. We will welcome interaction with others. But the confidence and the ownership, what we have for ourselves, is what we have to do and what we have to reclaim ourselves. If we don't take ourselves seriously, we can't expect the outside world to take us seriously. So I think the youth of India and for ASEAN have a lot in favor of them. Mr. Subramanyam mentioned, the future economically is ours, unless we spoil it. everything is going in our favor. It's our responsibility to make it a success. Second, I would say we need to move forward with a common vision. We will not accept the vision of others in terms of domination. We are not interested in domination, but we will not accept domination by other countries. If Western domination is over, we don't want another form of domination to take its place. But we are open and free and welcoming to all countries. And open and free and welcoming, I think, is important as something that is also applicable in the economic side. On the issue of inclusion, Mr. Subramanyam said, the greatest inclusive instrument in human history is democracy. There is no substitute for democracy. Democracy is what equalizes access and ownership of political and economic rights in the long term. There is no substitute for that. But I think we also need to take into account what technology has to offer. And let me give you a very small example of what India has done. India has ushered in what is called the digital financial revolution in the last 3-4 years. It's a very short period in a nation's history. It's a very short period. But we have succeeded in making it one of the biggest digital financial inclusion programs in the world. Last year we did almost 75 billion financial transactions through the digital media. Now, it is not just a convenience for the middle class and people who stay in cities. It is a convenience that is there for poor people, disconnected people who live in villages, who are new to. But once you're connected digitally, you are also connected not just to your village, your neighbors. You're connected to the world, and that is greatly liberating. In not just in economic terms, in financial terms, in terms of ideas, in terms of opportunities. It opens up the mental world to far beyond. So technology is a great force multiplier. But for technology has to be based in people's programs, inclusion of people, and technology helps in a great deal. With regard to nuclear weapons, you're right. India is a nuclear weapon state. We have been so since 1998. India is a reluctant nuclear power. We did not sign the NPT in 1967, 1970 because we said it was a discriminatory treaty. We waited more than 25 years to see whether the world would move down the path of nuclear disarmament. Unfortunately, it didn't appear to be so. So our Prime Minister, one of the great Prime Ministers of our country, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, took the decision in 1998 to make clear that India is a nuclear weapon state. But we are a nuclear weapon state that uses nuclear weapons not as instruments of offense. These are purely defensive in nature. We have a no first use policy, which basically says that we will not be the first to use nuclear weapons. We assure non-nuclear weapon states the fact that we will not use nuclear weapons against them. We respect the nuclear weapon free zone in Southeast Asia as we respect the nuclear weapon free zones in the rest of the world. Does India have a vision for nuclear disarmament? Yes, we do. We remain loyal and faithful to the original vision of nuclear disarmament, which is also consistent with the ASEAN view, which is also consistent with the Malaysian view. Malaysia took a very important initiative to the International Court of Justice, and the International Court of Justice said that nuclear weapon states have an obligation to move towards nuclear disarmament, and India supported the Malaysian initiative. So if there is universal, non-discriminatory, verifiable nuclear disarmament leading to the complete elimination of nuclear weapons anywhere in the world, India will join Malaysia in joining that initiative. Thank you.
I think that also answers the specific question if India seeks to be a counterbalance to any other power. I think Mr. Varma has answered that India is committed to a position of being a peace-loving and responsible state. Now, having said that, we are running out of time, so I will take one last round of questions. Yes, please. In the first row. Yes.
Hello. Yeah. Yeah, what is your, in financial perspective way, what is your greatest strength and greatest weakness?
Okay, one more question from the lady in the first row, please.
Yeah, okay.
Can you hear me? Good morning, sir.
Yes.
I'm Megha Chaube. I work for a think tank specifically specifically involving dealing with trade. My question is, with respect to the changing, situations in Asia, like we have seen the takeover of Afghanistan by a different regime, and also with respect to, the Ukraine-Russia war, how much do you think the West has an influence over India and SAARC nations? Because initially, when the war started, ASEAN and India condemned the war, but no sanctions were put on Russia. However, we saw with time, Singapore gave in to the Western influence and did put some sanctions on Russia. So how much do you think the West, knowing that ASEAN countries, Southeast Asia, is going to overpower them if they continue to do the way that they're doing, is going to influence us into coming down? And how much are we going to give into that influence?
Okay, I'll take one more last question, but I would request, can it be specific to the topic we are discussing, which is about regional development and good governance? If I can take it from the gentleman in the second row, please. Yeah, you.
Can economic, financial, and social inclusion and good governance at the societal level be solutions for the global economic future? I am launching this question, which I consider relevant in the context of current challenges regarding the role and importance of economic, financial, social inclusion, and good governance in the global society, with a direct focus on inclusion and diversity in the business environment. It can be a pillar of the recovery.
Can you please ask the question in a shorter form, because otherwise we're losing the question.
Can economic, financial, social inclusion, and good governance and at the societal level be solutions for the global economic future?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll answer to the best of my abilities. Somebody asked about strength and weakness. I think that's the kind of question that
Yes,
is
yes.
there. It's a very simple. I think the strength, not only of India, but India as well as ASEAN, is the youth. This will be the youngest population in the world for the next 25 years. And I think we are going to be the major supplier of workforce, other than probably Nigeria and Ethiopia, for the next 20-25 years. Populations across the world are not even stable. They are declining. I mean, take our own big neighbor on the other side, whom we have just overtaken. In another 30 years, their population will be less than 1 billion. They'll be minus 400 million. So who is going to supply workforce for the world in the future? It's us, the countries in this room. So I think that's the strength. What are the challenge or the weakness, I'll put it this way, are two. One is this whole business about environment, sustainability. I think that is common to all of us. And I think that is a common challenge, not only for the globe, but for our region. And the second is slightly more equity. I think that's important, because too much of inequality in a society can lead to social instability. So that is the second one. The other one on, the foreign policy side, I think Venkatesh can answer.
Yeah, on financial inclusion, I think I was trying to answer your question. I told you about digital financial success in India. And India is hosting the G20 this year. Prime Minister Modi will be welcoming world leaders in September for hosting the G20 summit. And one of the main agenda items that India has taken the initiative to put on the agenda is financial inclusion. And financial inclusion, we are willing to share our experience. We are willing to share our expertise, not just with the developing countries, but with developed countries. We are in active engagement on the issue of debt refinancing. A number of 40 to 50 developing countries have very critical debt problems. So India is absolutely engaged on the issue of digital financial inclusion, not just as a national measure, but as an element of international cooperation. And I'm sure the G20 summit will take very important decisions in that. Now, to answer your question, whether financial inclusion is important, the answer is absolutely yes, 100% it is. And I think Indian experience I think is important in carrying it forward. On the issue of the Russia-Ukraine war, it is quite clear that the Russia-Ukraine war is a tragedy. It is a tragedy because it's leading to a lot of destruction, loss of life, refugee flows, disruption not just in Ukraine, but also in Russia, but also in the international economy in terms of fuel, fertilizer, food, inflation, disruption of commodity supplies, aviation, shipping, banking. So it has had a hugely disruptive effort. But I think the government, our government, Indian government, took the right decision in February last year, that it is not simply an issue of Russian aggression against Ukraine. It is a little more complicated than that. And it also took the view that it was not exactly an unprovoked aggression. But that doesn't mean that we are comfortable with the idea of one country using military force to change the status quo against the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And therefore, we also took the view that there'll be no winners in this war. And I think our initial assessment is proving to be right, because there's a stalemate, there's a very prolonged war. And the view also that has been taken, and Prime Minister Modi has been very clear and upfront about it, this is not an era of war. But he's also very clearly said that India will be on the side of peace whenever the opportunities for peace may come up. India is definitely a peace seeker. Whether India can be a peacemaker will depend on the evolution of the war. Prime Minister Modi has good contacts, excellent contacts with President Putin. He knows him very well. He's kept open his contacts with President Zelensky. There is a lot of expectation in the Western world also. You see, Western policies have also not helped bring this conflict to an early conclusion, because the massive amount of Western military aid that is being given is only fueling the conflict. And we have heard comments from former Chancellor Merkel. We have heard comments from former President Poroshenko of Ukraine, that the dialogue that the West conducted with Russia before the conflict started was actually a fake dialogue. They were not really interested in a diplomatic settlement. So, it is a mess, but it's a mess that has been created, I think, by both sides. So India's view is very clear. We want the conflict to end as soon as possible. We want the G20 to take a position that will help bring about peace. And India would like to keep its relationship with Russia as strong as before. So I think the government has faced a very major foreign policy challenge. But until now, I think the government's success in facing this challenge has been very, very good. Thank you.
I think we are overshooting the time. So there was one question, but I think if you could answer it offline. The question was, should there be any anticipatory action that should be taken by ASEAN and Indian countries with regard to a prospective countervailing thing? But I think since we are overshooting the time, that would be answered offline. The two distinguished speakers are here. I think we will have to vacate the floor for the next session. But if any of you have any questions to ask of them, you can actually do it offline. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all our speakers. May I now request Shri NIRANJAN Reddy to kindly felicitate our speakers, Shri VVR Subramanyam and Ambassador Venkatesh Varma.
Yeah.
May I request Captain Alok Bansal to kindly felicitate Shri NIRANJAN Reddy. So we close the session now. It's written break in the schedule, but we are not taking a break. It's more like a break. So let's have some fun. I hand it over to Sri Ram Madhav.
Friends, no break now. Because you just had breakfast at 9:30. It's only 10:30. Any urgent break is required, you get up, go and come back. But for some time now, next 30 minutes, we will have some edutainment. Okay? Firstly, nobody is changing the flags, right? Where your country flag is, you have to go and sit there and try to introduce the person sitting next to you. We will do a few things. Firstly, from each country, one person will go out in the refreshment area and in the lobby area. You have certain words pasted. You have to locate those words. They are on an A4 size sheet with our event logo also pasted on it. You will find different words. Those different words have to be, first of all, located, noted down. You have to come back with that sentence. It's a sentence. It makes a statement. Okay? So those who go, little more familiar with English, those go and find out, create that sentence, come back in 10 minutes. Only 10 minutes will be there. You have to come back in 10 minutes and you have to give your view on that sentence. First of all, frame the sentence and give your view on that sentence in 1 minute. So from each country, one person will go. Indians can sit and observe, watch, but ASEAN country friends will go. Secondly, I'm telling you something that I will take up after 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, each country, 3 or 4 of you, whoever are close by, nearby tables, you can consult now. You come up with one message or greeting in your language. You decide what will be that, not very long, small, brief, goodwills, a statement, a message, a greeting, which you will say in your mother tongue. We will find out how many others can actually understand that if you say that in your mother tongue. We will see which other country can then tell you, oh, you meant this, like that. That you prepare. Okay, now each country can send one person out who will go and find out the sentence and come back. Now it is 10:50. You have to come back at 11 o'clock. Quickly, one person should go. Okay, meanwhile, I'm going ahead. Only one person should go. Only one person from a country, because other activity we have. You have to search in the refreshment area. Don't go together. Don't go in a group. Go individually. Okay, now, where is Amar? Amar is here. Amar, please get up. Quickly, you have to quickly in 30 seconds mention the names of 5 people. Hey, here, don't go. This is for you. You have to quickly tell us your 5 delegates. Quickly. Give the mic to her, quickly. Give a mic. Mic. From your country. We need 5 names of your country, quickly. Or use the mic. 30 seconds.
Hello. Hello. Okay. Hi. 5 names of our delegate is there's Hazira, there's Izian, there's Moms, and there's Wai, and Anik is actually outside.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. You remember 5 names of your
And
country.
Shazwan. I forgot about Shazwan.
Okay. Shezwan, everyone remembers, na? Shezwan. Okay. Now, from Cambodia, Sokum Heng. Where is Sokum? Sokum is here. Oh, Sokum, you have to mention 4 members of your country, quickly. Names of your 3 colleagues.
Speed up.
Fast, 30 seconds, fast.
Hello?
Mike quickly.
And Hong Kong
No, okay.
and Kosovo.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now a little difficult thing I am giving. From Indonesia, 3 Laksono is here. From Indonesia, you are there? Can you rise? Where is?
He's outside.
He is outside. Okay. Then Vina Mardena Fan from Indonesia, is he around? He or she? Vina? She is also outside. Alright, how come so many are outside? Meryl is here. Meryl? Hey, how come all Indonesians are outside? Huh? Okay, from Lao PDR, Sisani is here. Sisane? Outside? Or you don't want to take up, so you are saying outside? Okay, Calvin is here, Indonesia. Calvin? Calvin is there? Yeah, Calvin. No, wait. You have to tell me the names of 3 people from other countries. Immediately, quickly.
Y. Where's
Y?
Y from Brunei?
Where is he?
There you
Okay.
go.
Okay.
And then I keep forgetting names. That's
No, forget that.
Michael from the Philippines.
Where is he?
Michael from the Philippines, and
Okay.
then Ayadore from India.
Who?
Ayadore from
Ayadore
India.
is there? Oh, okay. Okay, Stalin. Okay, good. Okay, great. So from Myanmar, Swe Mar Nang. You are there? 3 people from other countries.
Yes. Mấy nghề mấy bài của giới bi.
Where are they? They are there? Okay. Go ahead.
Yes.
3?
Yes.
Over?
Yes.
3 people. Okay, good. Okay, now I'm giving you slightly more complicated thing. A little more complicated. Now, this is a postman job we have to do. I am calling upon Y. Mar Lin from Myanmar. Around here in the hall? Anybody from Myanmar? Raise your hand. Myanmar. You are there? Anybody? Any name? Myanmar. Please raise. Come out of your chair. Come out. Where is that envelope? Take that envelope. No, you are a postman. No, you don't need that mic. Take the envelope. One more envelope is there? Okay. You have to go to Christina Luis of Philippines in 1 minute and deliver that letter. Her name is Christina Luis. Nameplates to be removed. She will find out where is Christina. 1 minute. Just stand here. Just 1 minute. 1 minute. You know her. You know her? Oh, just a minute. So she will, while finding, she will come to you. If you are not Christina, but you know where she is, you have to just stamp on her back. A stamp and tell her go to 3rd row. Okay? Now go and find out Christina. Go. Okay. And from Malaysia, I want Losheni Gunasegaran. Where is Losheni? Losheni, come. Take the envelope. And you have to go to Shrutika in Singapore. Deliver that letter to Shrutika. Any stamping happened? Any stamping? Quick. Find Lotika. I want Abdul Qadir from Singapore. Abdul Qadir. Where is Abdul Qadir? Come, Qadir. Habib bin Abdul Qadir. You have to find. You have to find Noor Hajira Muhammad Sufyan from Brunei. Oh.
So excited.
No, you have to look, you have to go and get stamped. So have you delivered? Anybody delivered that letter? You have delivered? Where is she? Okay, you got it. Good. Okay. Don't send him to wrong address. Okay. Meanwhile, while he locates his postal box, postal address, I'm inviting. Now this is a more interesting part. I invite 2 delegates of Singapore, 2 of them. Please come. Any 2. 2 delegates from Singapore. Come fast, come fast. Please run. Now listen, I am giving them a statement about their country. They will communicate this message to you without using any words. Come up, come up. You have to convey this message to them, but you cannot use words. Okay? You can use your expressions, your hands, legs, everything, but no mouth. Huh? Yes. That is one thing. Showing your tongue is also one thing. No, noise is okay, but no words. Thailand, 2 people, Thailand. 2 from Thailand, please come. You found the address? Good. Good. No, you can go and settle down. Come, come. Okay, ready? Go ahead. Go ahead, go ahead. Do it. Difficult. More time. Okay. You have to convey this. You are ready? Okay, Singapore, ready? Just watch what they are trying to convey to you. And if you can understand, just tell us back. Yeah.
Jumping.
Good. Now you read the sentence.
Okay. We derive our name from the phrase land of the lions. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you.
So have they really conveyed? Yes. Now Thailand's turn. Next, Vietnam. 2 people, please come up. Vietnam. 2 Vietnam delegates. Quickly, 2 of you. Yeah. You are ready? No words, okay? You leave the paper. Vietnam, Vietnam. Vietnam. Come, 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 come. Not getting? Okay, okay. One clue. Yes. Okay, now
It's quite hard.
quite hard.
The amulet with the Buddha picture is famous. Something like that.
You almost right.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The right answer is that Buddha pictures and amulets are part of our very famous Mutelu industry. Yeah, it's quite hard, but we all did a very great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Last, yeah. You can't use mic. So you have to convey. Yes. Okay, you can say the keyword of your statement. Keyword.
Hub. Hub.
Okay, okay. They will tell you about the fun fact of their country. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, you can't read. So its young people population account for nearly half of the population of the country. That's in my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So those who have gone to form the sentence have come back? Huh? Come, come. You have found all the words? The words. You have found them?
Hi, I'm from Vietnam, and I've been running around. I found a few words. I found the word youth. The first word I found was future, and then youth, and present, and future, and power, and hope. So I was like forming a sentence, and I think my sentence is, youth is the power of the present and the hope of the future.
You also found. Come on. All of you come. You all have found. It is all sentences. All of you have found words.
Not managed to find all, but I think that's...
Yeah. What have you found?
I'm Anik, I'm from Brunei, and I think I have the same sentence as youth is the power for the present, youth is the power of the present and the hope for the future.
Power of the present, hope of the future.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Different, not this. We have a different sentence for it, these words. Power of the present, hope of the future is what he is saying. Is that the sentence you want to make, or you want to make a different sentence out of it? Anybody who says hope of the present, power of the future. Youth is hope of the present, power of the future. Different. Okay.
I have a different sentence. It is, youth is the hope of our future.
That's another new sentence you created. Okay. Now you can take 1 minute to explain. Why do you think so?
Okay.
1 minute, huh? Not long speech. Quickly, quickly.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Avina from Indonesia. And my sentence is, youth is the hope of our future. Why? because we have the ability to learn and adapt. We can bring social reform and we can change the society. We carry this responsibility in our shoulder. So make it happen. Thank you.
Great. Next.
Hello everyone, I'm Olivia from Malaysia. So I found the same word like Indonesia friend. You see, youth is the hope of our future. So I believe that youth play an important role in our society, especially in the country itself, because youth actually can be the voice of the country itself. So I believe that all the delegates here that represent the youth in their country is actually an agent for their country itself. So that's from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Charmaine. I'm from Singapore. So my statement is actually youth is present hope and future power. So it's quite similar, just a few different words. The main thing is I think we're all in the space where we can grow and learn so much, and there's so many more things that, you know, we can contribute to the world and learn and, you know, do together. And I'm really hoping that with us coming together, we will create more power. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Sam from Cambodia. My sentence is, youth is the future hope. And hope what? In terms of building peace, strengthening friendship, and also in terms of economic cooperation. Actually, all the delegates here mostly are youth, so we already have a position like some of you are a lecturer, a teacher, or student, or journalist as well. So the present is our different background, and we will come here, we will promote our friendship. And in the future, we try to build a peace and cooperate in terms of economic cooperation as much as possible. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bang On. I am from Laos. I went out, I just saw only 2 words.
Okay.
Because my friend, they took all the words and bring it with them.
Okay, what are those 2 words that you saw?
So yeah, but I will make a sentence. I saw the word present. Present is inevitable. But future is not yet come. Our youth is the key of the future. So let's make the world more peace and more better place to us to live. Yeah, thank you.
More peace, better future.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. You. Yeah, one by one. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I only found 2 words, but I peek on every language.
No.
I got some sentence anyway. Thanks for helping anyway. So I got the sentence is like, hope is the power of the youth present. So I think this youth is stand for, I think it's talking about like, discuss about like the young country, right? The young generations and also young country, right? Because in the past, like they have a lot of like major powers, they already developed it, right? But we are still developing and gaining the power of the youth, and we will still have a more future development. So I think that is the meaning of the youth.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. What's my sentence again? Okay. Youth is the power of present and the future hope. Because I believe that youth, we are still young, so we still have a lot of time in terms of working together, in terms of solving the world issues, in terms of contributing into the community in order to make a better change for the future. So from here we start, and then from here we start. We have a long time to go, so we'll hope for a good future together.
Great. Last, yeah.
All right. So my sentence has 2 clauses. First, youth is the power of the present, because obviously we're young, we're energetic. Just look at the way that we run around the room. We're very energetic. We're eager to learn. So we are the agents of change. We're the driving force of development. So that's the power of the present. And the hope of the future is that in the future, we're going to be future leaders. We're going to, the youth, the current youth is going to make like big decisions in the future. And we're going to be like the cornerstone for the future. And that's what it means by youth is the hope of the future, as long as we're not taken over by AI.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all. Please take your seats. See, we gave them 5 words: youth, power, hope, present, and future. So these 5 words, how many formulations they have made, you have seen, and how many wonderful messages these representatives of the 10 countries gave to us on this one sentence: youth is the power of the present and hope of the future. On that, they gave us wonderful message. A round of applause for them. Yes, please go and take your seats. Last thing, in this, I'm going to give a statement. Then I will call upon countries to either support it or oppose it. But either thing only in 1 minute. My statement can be supported or opposed. So first of all, I will ask countries which are supporting it. One representative can rise and say you are supporting, but why you are supporting? In one sentence you have to say. If you oppose, you have to tell me why you are opposing. Okay? The first statement is, listen carefully. Population growth is not a challenge, it is a human resource. Population growth is not a challenge, it is a human resource. So we will go by each country supporting. Indonesia, anybody supporting it? Any representative? Yes, go ahead. Tell me why you support it.
Yeah, because growth population, it's about how to manage it. It's about how to handle our resources, especially in human resources.
No, but you are supporting that your population growth is not a problem.
Not a problem. It's about how we manage our people.
Yes. So you believe that growth is not a problem. How to manage it is a problem.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Then in Malaysia, anybody? Yeah, supporting or opposing? Opposing. Good. Why you oppose?
Opposing, sir. Yes. So I believe that population growth, it can be a bad thing in a way because of lack of resources. I think that's something that yes, we need to manage it properly, but lack of resources is something that it is a big problem right now. So I oppose that sentence. Yeah.
You think that population is a problem?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then Singapore. Anybody from Singapore has a view? Singapore, no view? Okay, Vietnam, anybody has a view? Yes. You go ahead. From Vietnam, anybody?
Hi, my name is Chi.
Firstly, you oppose or support?
I'm support for this sentence because
Give the mic. Yeah.
Hello, I'm from Vietnam and I'm gonna support this sentence because I believe each of us is unique and we have a different characteristic and each of us gonna play a different role to contribute to this world. So each of us gonna contribute to the development of the humanity. So I believe the population's growth is not a problem. It's gonna make the world better. Thank you.
Okay. Vietnam supports it. Okay. Cambodia.
Hello.
Anybody from Cambodia? Yes. Second, support or oppose? Why don't you rise so that people can see you?
Cambodia will support this statement.
Stand up. Why don't you stand up? People can see you. Yeah.
We believe that even though the population grows, but with a good governance and policy, we can build upon on the skill of the population, and it will become the great potential for the human resource for the country. Thank you.
So you support population growth?
Yeah, we support.
Okay. Okay. Lao PDR? Any view? Nobody. Thailand? Yes.
I support this statement because I think it depends on management and attitude of the country. I think we cannot use a lot of resources to raise children, and we can make children and people in the country to become effective people and become a powerful people for the country and for the world. Thank you.
Okay, you don't see population growth as a problem, rather you see if you effectively manage, it can be beneficial. Okay, then Myanmar, any view? Yeah, first row, yes. If you.
I suppose your statement, the growth of the population is not the problem. Yes, I agree with the population growth is a human resource that I agree with the statement of our colleague from Malaysia. Management is the most critical for this population growth, because if we have the good education plan, we can make the youth, we can make the human resource for the modernized future. Yes, so we agreed.
Okay. Now I give you the other statement. We will take up the other countries. This probably would be opposed by many, I hope. My statement will be, many have supported my first statement. My second statement is, climate change is a conspiracy by the West. So, as I said, many will oppose. Climate change is not a real thing. There is no real climate problem. It's only a conspiracy by West to stall our development. This is my statement. So we will start with Philippines. Philippines, India, I will come. Philippines, yes, go ahead. Take the hand mic and hand mic. You have the hand mic, yes. 1 minute, huh?
Okay, hello. Good morning to everyone. I am Raul from the Philippines, and I would respectfully oppose the statement because, especially as young people, it is our future at stake. We have to pay attention to environmental problems, because environmental problems are also economic problems, they are health problems, and they will be political problems. That's why we have to acknowledge that climate change is real, and we have to act now. We should not delay action by different sectors to address the issue. Thank you.
Great, thank you. India, anybody from India? India? Yeah, from the back, quickly. Then I'm going to ask Singapore.
Sir, I support your argument completely, because this is a conspiracy from the West side, because when you will see last 3-4 decades, from West have made a lot of advancement in terms of the industry and other things, whereas India is going ahead with the innovation and technology and other things in the recent time. So we are just reaching to a certain extent or the stage which West has done very far ago. So now they are making this as a part of the conspiracy, so that these third world countries will not become the advanced countries.
Okay.
So it's a somewhere clear-cut a conspiracy against the third world countries.
Okay, okay. Singapore, anybody from Singapore has any view? You're from Singapore? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, hi, I'm Zul from Singapore. I think we we respectfully disagree, but I think the issue is not so much about climate change as it is our attitudes towards the climate. It should not change regardless of whether there's climate change or not. We should be respecting and being sustainable with our practices regardless. In terms of, I think, developing countries not being able to progress far because of the allocation of resources, I think there's a way to do it in a much more sustained manner, given the amount of technology and science that the leaps and bounds that we have been taking thus far.
Okay. All right. I'm asking the last question. Only 3 countries will take this question, although all can answer. All can have a view. 3 countries are Brunei, Cambodia, and India. So people from these 3 countries, be ready. This is again a critical question. You probably can disagree. The statement is, religion divides. This is my statement. Religion divides. Brunei, any view? Brunei. No view from Brunei? You can oppose me. I mean, you can say your statement, we disagree. Going ahead, give the mic to her. Yeah. Then you have to say why it is not. Yeah, mic hai. Brunei, there, yeah. Go ahead quickly. We are short of time, yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
Religion divides.
Divides.
Religion. Faith divides.
Oppose.
You're supporting me?
No, oppose.
You oppose. Why? Why do you oppose?
Actually, for me, regardless of all religion, we actually share the same value. So we actually respect each other regardless of different religions. So yeah, we are not divided.
Not divided.
Yeah.
Excellent. Very good. Cambodia? Anybody from Cambodia?
Okay. This.
India?
Hello. Cambodia here, sir.
Cambodia
Yeah.
here. Okay. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, hello. I'm Kim from Cambodia. So regarding to this religion divided, I would say yes, support it to you because based on the every region, like we all have our special and we like our value. So I don't think it's divided, but what kind of divided in the good way or the bad way? I'm not so sure about this. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. We're just giving this scope to front row. Yeah. Give to her. India. Yeah.
Okay, so even I believe that religion may not divide people because at least in India, our religious values go back to more than 5,000 years back into our civilizational past. And we have been a land which is so diverse and so welcoming to religions across the world. Like Swami Vivekananda had said in Chicago that whether it is the Western religions or Eastern religions, we have always been welcoming. And I think that India is one of the foremost examples across the world where we enjoy harmony among different religions. And this is our power as an example and world's largest democracy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for your pro and con statements. Actually, all these statements need to be opposed. I gave you 3 statements, which are all 3 need to be opposed. Firstly, population growth is not a challenge. Some of you have supported me, but in the macro picture, if you see, the growth rates are a challenge. There is a need for rationalization of the growth of the population. Not everywhere, but I'm talking about the macro picture. Similarly, climate change is no conspiracy, it is real. Although some people may try to propagate that it's all a conspiracy to keep you underdeveloped, to keep you backward. No, it's actually a real challenge. Similarly, religions are meant for imparting values, as our Brunei friend very rightly said. They are not supposed to be becoming instruments for division and conflicts. So these statements need to be opposed. So thank you all. We will stop this kind of edutainment. I mean, it's an entertainment also, but a little educative also. It's edutainment here. But I am giving you one question, which we will take up sometime before we end the session at 4:30. That question will be, you all have to, from each country, have to tell what is the best thing in your country that you want the whole world to know. This is the best part of my country. You have to tell. But also you have to tell what is the best thing that you want to learn from another country, maybe your neighbor in ASEAN and India within this group. What is it that you want to learn from one of these countries? Any country based on your interactions with colleagues. This one question we will take up at some point in the next 3-4 hours. Now we just break only for 5 minutes. 11:30 we resume. Snacks, tea, you can go have it. If you don't want, just relax. After 5 minutes, we'll start the session. Thank you.